The moment that changed Eva White teach ing the day that looked ordinary until it wasn't. It started like any other day. Nothing dramatic. No warning signs. Just another moment you thought you had lived 100 times before. You walked in expecting routine. You expected normal. You expected to walk out unchanged. That's how life gets you. The moments that reshape your future don't usually arrive with noise. They don't come with flashing lights or raised voices. They slip in quietly. They sit beside you without asking permission. And before you understand what's happening, something inside you shifts. Think about it. How many lives have been altered in quiet rooms? A short pause. A look that lasts a second too long. A sentence that lands heavier than expected. That's how change works. It doesn't ask if you're prepared. It doesn't wait for courage. It shows up when you least expect it. You didn't walk in looking for answers. You weren't searching for a turning point. But that's the truth about turning points. They don't come when you're ready. They come when it's time. And in that moment, even though nothing around you looked different, everything had already started to change. The ground didn't shake. The walls didn't move. But inside you, something new. Something paused. Something whispered, "This is not just another day." That's how it begins. Not with drama. With disruption, quiet, sudden, personal. And once that moment passes, nothing ever fits the same way again. When an outsider notices what love helped you ignore sometimes, it takes someone with no history in your life to see what you've learned to overlook. Someone who isn't tied to your memories. Someone who isn't protecting comfort. Someone who isn't invested in keeping things calm. Love can make you loyal. But loyalty, when unchecked, can make you blind. When you care deeply, you explain things away. You soften sharp edges. You tell yourself stories that help you sleep at night. Not because you're weak, but because you want peace. Because you want normal to stay normal. Then someone steps in who has nothing to gain from silence. Someone who looks without attachment. And suddenly, the thing you've been stepping around gets named. Let me tell you something. Fresh eyes see clearly because they aren't carrying your history. They aren't protecting your comfort. They aren't afraid of rocking your world. That's why truth often comes through unexpected voices. Not friends, not family, not the people who love you most, but someone who sees what is not what should be. And in that instant, the safety you thought you had starts to feel thin, because you realize how much effort it took to keep things smooth. How much energy went into not looking too closely. Familiarity can feel safe, but safe doesn't always mean sound. Sometimes it takes one honest observation to show you how much you've been carrying without even knowing it. The sound of certainty cracking inside. There's a moment when your chest tightens and your thoughts slow down. Not because you're confused, but because you understand too much all at once. It's not loud. It's sharp. It's like hearing something break in a quiet room. You don't see it fall, but it can't be put back the same way. In that moment, your body reacts before your words do. Your mind tries to catch up, and you realize that what you just heard has weight. It stays. It follows you. You don't need details. You don't need proof stacked in front of you. You just know that something you believed without question no longer holds. That's the hardest part. Not the truth itself, but the way it rearranges everything you thought was solid. From that point on, you can't go back to not knowing. You can't return to easy answers. Something has shifted. And even if you try to keep moving like nothing happened, part of you has already stepped into a new space. This is where the interchange begins. Not with action, not with plans, but with awareness. Once that crack appears, you start seeing everything differently. Past moments, small signals, quiet feelings you pushed aside. This is the start, not the collapse. The start, because when something false breaks, it hurts. But it also clears the way for something real to stand in its place. The danger of what we choose not to cue stay out. Trust slowly turns into a blindfold. Trust is meant to bring closeness. But when trust turns into silence, it starts covering your eyes. Loyalty can feel like strength, yet it can slowly mute that inner voice that keeps trying to warn you. You feel something, you brush it off. You tell yourself it's nothing, then it comes back. That cycle is familiar. You felt it, you ignored it. You felt it again. Feeling safe is not the same as being aware. Safe means nothing is shaking right now. Aware means you're paying attention even when things look calm. Many people choose safety because it feels easier. Awareness asks more from you. It asks you to listen when it's uncomfortable. Think of how many times people say, I didn't want to overthink, when what they really mean is, I didn't want to look. Trust should never require silence from your instincts. When it does, it stops protecting you and starts limiting you. The danger isn't trusting someone. The danger is training yourself to stop trusting what you feel, because the part of you that notices small shifts is not your enemy. It's your early warning. How love trains you to question yourself instead of the truth. Love has a quiet power. It doesn't just connect you to another person. It reshapes how you explain things to yourself. When something feels wrong, love steps in and says, there must be a reason. You start building explanations that sound kind, but slowly turn against you. You stop asking if something is right and start asking what's wrong with you for feeling uneasy. This is where people lose their footing. Instincts speak first, but explanations speak louder. You tell yourself you're tired. You tell yourself you're sensitive. You tell yourself you're reading too much into things. Let me say this clearly. Ignoring signals doesn't make them disappear. It only delays the moment they demand attention. Love should not require you to doubt yourself to keep peace. When you are constantly explaining away your own feelings, something is off. Not because you failed, but because truth doesn't vanish just because you refuse to look at it. When you keep choosing explanations over instincts, you slowly stop hearing yourself at all. Comfort feels safe until the bill comes due. Comfort has a way of hiding the cost. Avoiding hard truths feels gentle in the moment. You tell yourself you'll deal with it late. You tell yourself now is not the right time. And for a while, nothing seems to fall apart, but delayed truth doesn't disappear. It waits. What you avoid today doesn't stay small. It grows quietly in the background. And one day, it shows up all at once, stronger, heavier, harder to carry. Comfort keeps things calm on the surface. Honesty keeps things solid underneath. When you choose comfort over honesty again and again, you're not protecting yourself. You're postponing impact. This is where many people get stuck. They think silence is saving them, but silence is just time passing. Sooner or later, what you refuse to face demands space. And when it does, it asks for more than it ever would have before. The body knows before the mind intimates your body with sounding the alarm long before you. Listen, your body speaks, even when your mind tries to stay quiet. Tight shoulders, heavy breathing, restless sleep. These are not random. They are signals, like an alarm that keeps going off while you keep hitting pause. Emotional weight doesn't stay in your thoughts. It settles into your muscles. It shows up in your posture. It changes how you move through the day. You might say you're fine, but your body tells a different story. It reacts before your words catch up. That's because your body doesn't explain things away. It responds to what's real. When stress stays unspoken, the body carries it. When feelings stay buried, the body holds the pressure. This isn't weakness. It's designed. The body notices when something isn't right long before the mind is ready to admit it. When quiet discomfort starts screaming for attention at first, the signs are small. A strange tension, a sense of unease you can't explain. You brush it off. You keep going, but it doesn't stop. Something feels off. Something feels off. The more you ignore it, the louder it gets. Not with noise, but with persistence. The discomfort shows up again and again because it wants to be noticed. This is what happens when denial begins to crack. You can only push feelings down for so long before they push back up. Your body is not trying to scare you. It's trying to protect you. The discomfort isn't the problem. Ignoring it is. When you finally pause and listen, you realize it was never sudden. It was building, waiting for you to stop running from it. Truth doesn't wait for your readiness. Truth moves on its own timing. It doesn't check if you feel prepared. It doesn't slow down because you're unsure. It arrives when it arrives. You can delay facing it, but you can't control when it shows up. That's why trying to manage it never works for long. The moment truth steps into the open, control slips away. And that can feel frightening. But it can also feel relieving. Because pretending takes more energy than facing what is. Truth doesn't need permission. It doesn't need comfort. It simply exists. And once it's in front of you, the real question is no longer whether you're ready. It's whether you're willing to stop turning away and stand where you are. The secret was never just HI secrets don't stay contained. They spread damage. A secret is never as small as the person holding it thinks. It doesn't sit quietly in one corner. It leaks slowly, day by day. Like water dripping into a structure you believe is solid. At first, nothing looks wrong. Life keeps moving. Conversations keep happening. Smiles still show up, but underneath, something is weakening. Not all at once. Bit by bit. This isn't about blame. It's about impact. When a truth is hidden, it doesn't stay private. It changes how you speak, how you listen, how you trust. It alters the emotional air everyone is breathing. You might not see it, but you feel it. Think of a home with a small leak behind the wall. No noise, no drama, just steady damage. By the time the wall caves in, the leak has been there for a long time. That's how secrets work. They don't explode. They wear things down, and the harm isn't just on one side. It spreads into the connection, into your sense of safety, into how you see yourself. That's why this was never just his issue. It touched everything. The parts of you that went quiet to keep the peace. When truth is missing, silence grows. And often the silence comes from you. You stop asking certain questions. You stop saying certain things. You shrink pieces of yourself so the space stays calm. Not because you want to disappear, but because you want harmony. Over time, that quiet becomes a habit. You don't notice it at first. You just feel tired, less expressive, less sure of what you want. That's how self-loss happens, slowly, without permission. Ask yourself this. Who did you stop being to keep things smooth? What parts of you learned to stay quiet so nothing would break? This isn't about losing a relationship. It's about losing parts of yourself while trying to protect it. And the painful truth is this. Peace that requires your silence isn't peace. It's pressure. When you finally see that, it hurts. But it also clears something important. It shows you what it costs to keep things unchanged. When you realize this was about truth, not just betrayal. At some point, something shifts. You stop asking, why did this happen to me? And start asking, what is this showing me? That's the turning point. This wasn't only about broken trust. It was about living in something that couldn't hold truth. And once you see that, the focus changes. You're no longer stuck in what was done to you. You begin to see what you were standing inside of. This is where awareness replaces helplessness. You start understanding that the real issue wasn't just the action. It was the absence of honesty, and that understanding doesn't weaken you. It wakes you up. Pain brought you here. But clarity is what carries you forward when your world shatters. So, does the illusion one hawk is the mind rebooting after reality breaks through shock doesn't mean you're fragile. It means your system just took in something big dot when reality breaks through. Your mind needs time to adjust. That pause, that numbness, that fog, it's not failure, it's response. Many people try to push through it. They tell themselves to stay strong, to hold it together. But holding everything down doesn't make you strong. It makes you exhausted. There is strength in letting yourself feel the impact. And admitting that something knocked the breath out of you, being overwhelmed doesn't mean you can't handle life. It means life just changed direction. Removing shame from this moment matters. Because shame keeps people stuck. Understanding lets them move. The story you lived by can't exist in the presence of truth. We all live by ideas we believe are solid. About people, about safety, about the future. And when one of those ideas collapses, it feels like the ground disappears. You realize the structure you trusted was built on assumptions. And assumptions can't hold weight once truth steps in. This is why trying to repair what was never solid doesn't work. You can't fix a base that was never strong. It's painful to admit that. But it's also freeing. Because now you don't have to keep pretending the cracks aren't there. You don't have to keep propping up something that can't stand. Truth clears out what can't last. Not to punish you, but to make space for something real. Pain is the passage, not the place you stay. Pain has one job: to get your attention. It was never meant to be your home. You pass through it. You don't live there. Staying stuck in hurt feels familiar, but it keeps you frozen. Movement begins when you accept what happened without letting it define where you remain. Let me be clear. Don't live where the injury happened. Use the pain as a signal. A doorway. A push forward. What comes next won't look like what came before. And that's the point. You are not here to rebuild what broke. You are here to move beyond it. You are not crazy. You are misled learning to trust yourself again after doubt was planted. When doubt is planted long enough, you start questioning your own mind. You replay moments. You second-guess reactions. You wonder if you imagine things. That doesn't mean you lost your sense. It means it was trained to stand down. Now it's time to take it back. You felt it. You were right. You felt it again. You were still right. That inner signal didn't disappear. It just got quieter because you were told not to listen. Rebuilding trust in yourself starts with allowing that voice to speak without cutting it off. You don't need to shout it down anymore. You don't need to explain it away. Think about how children trust their feelings before they're taught to doubt them. That trust can return slowly, step by step. Self-trust is the ground you stand on when everything else feels unstable. When you rebuild it, you stop searching outside for permission to believe what you feel. When truth brings relief instead of comfort often sounds kind, but it keeps things blurry. Truth can feel sharp at first, yet it clears the fog. There's relief in knowing where you stand. Even when the answer hurts, it steadies you. Lies keep you guessing. Truth lets you breathe. Think of someone finally turning on the light in a dark room. The mess might be there, but at least you're not walking into walls anymore. Truth doesn't aim to hurt you. It aims to stop the damage from continuing. That's why it brings calm after the sting fades. Once you stop clinging to comfort that hides problems, you start choosing clarity that frees you. And that shift changes how you move through everything that comes next. The pain that exposed what was always wrong. Pain has a way of revealing what words could not. Like a wound that shows an infection underneath, it points to something that needed attention long ago. The hurt didn't create the problem. It uncovered it. That's why this moment matters. It's not about suffering. It's about seeing clearly. Growth begins when the hidden issue is brought into the open. You don't heal by pretending the wound isn't there. You heal by treating what caused it. This pain didn't arrive to break you. It arrived to show you what needed to change. Everything changes. And that's the point. Change feels dangerous. But staying is what destroys you. Change shakes routines. It removes familiar ground. That's why it scares people. But staying where harm lives costs more than moving forward ever will. Staying looks calm on the outside. Inside, it drains you. Movement isn't reckless. It's protective. It's how you choose life over slow damage. Think of a building with a weak foundation. Standing still inside doesn't make it safer. Stepping out does. Change ask you to leave what you know. Staying asks you to accept what hurts. One leads to growth. The other keeps you stuck. You can't fix a life built on rot. You have to let it go. Some things can't be repaired. Not because you didn't try hard enough, but because the base was weak. You don't build on rotten wood. You clear it away. Letting go isn't failure. It's honesty. It's recognizing that holding on is costing you more than releasing ever could. Starting over doesn't mean you lost everything. It means you stopped pretending something broken could hold you. This is where freedom begins. Not in fixing what can't be saved, but in choosing something stronger. This is the moment where you decide who you become. This moment isn't about blame. It's about choice. You didn't choose what happened, but you choose what happens next. You can stay in reaction, letting events define you, or you can step into decision, shaping what comes next with clear eyes. This is where you choose yourself. Not out of anger, not out of fear, but out of respect for the life you want to live. Stand here. Decide here. Move forward from here. Because who you become next is not an accident. It's a choice you make right now. Choosing yourself is not self-sacrifice. You were taught to endure, not to protect yourself. From a young age, many of us are taught that endurance is a virtue. Tough it out, they say. Don't make waves. Put others first. And so you learn to tolerate discomfort, to swallow your needs, to bend yourself into spaces that weren't safe. Endurance became your badge of honor. But here's the truth. Enduring without protecting yourself isn't strength. It's sacrifice. And sacrifice without boundaries costs pieces of you you can never get back. You don't have to push through everything. You don't have to let harm slide past in the name of loyalty. You were built to survive, yes, but also to protect yourself. Endurance is valuable only when it doesn't erase who you were. It's time to stop equating suffering with virtue. Protecting yourself is not selfish. It is necessary. It is life. Self-respect is where real strength begins. Strength is not how much you can take. Real strength is how much you value yourself. You matter. You matter. You matter. Say it until it sticks. Because if you can't stand for yourself, no one else can stand in your place. Courage is not just facing outside challenges, it's defending your boundaries. It's saying no when saying yes would harm you. It's walking away when staying would cost your peace. Self-respect is not negotiable. It is the foundation upon which every decision, every relationship, every choice rests. Without it, everything else crumbles. With it, even the hardest moments become manageable because you carry yourself with a certainty no circumstance can take. Love supports you. Self-erasure destroys you. Love should lift you, not erase you. It should protect your identity, not demand it disappear. When love asks you to shrink, to mute, to compromise who you are for its sake, that is not devotion. That is self-erasure. And it is dangerous. Think of love like a garden. True love nourishes and protects. It allows growth. Self-erasure is like planting seeds in barren soil. They can't thrive. You can't flourish by disappearing. It's time to draw a line. You can give deeply, you can care fiercely, but not at the cost of your identity. Protect who you are, and love will follow in balance, not sacrifice. What you do next defines who you be, so immunus comes with responsibility. Whether you like it or not, once you see the truth, you can't unsee it. Awareness doesn't come with options to ignore it. It comes with a responsibility to act. Ignoring what you know doesn't protect you, it only delays consequences. Every choice after awareness matters. Every step matters. Every silence matters. Integrity starts here. You must decide whether you let truth guide you or continue to live as if it doesn't exist. The eyes are open now. What you do next will define who you are in the days to come. You don't need every answer, just the next honest move. You don't have to know the whole path to move forward. You don't need a map for every turn. You only need the next step that aligns with honesty. It can be small, it can be simple, but it must be real. Action creates clarity. Movement creates freedom. Stalling creates more confusion. Focus on progress, not perfection. One honest choice after another is how life reshapes itself. You will find the way by walking it. Create a life that doesn't require you to pretend. The peace you seek will never come from pretending. Pretending hides problems, buries feelings, and erases authenticity. Build a life where honesty is standard, not optional. Where silence isn't a survival strategy. Where comfort doesn't require compromise of who you are. Peace that comes from being true is steady. It doesn't crack under pressure. It doesn't need masks. That life is possible, but only when you stop living for appearances and start living for reality. This was the wake-up call, not the END. You faced the truth and survived. That changes everything. You survived what you feared, what you avoided, what you thought would break you. And surviving proves something. You are stronger than you believed. The proof isn't in courage imagined. It's in reality. You endured. You faced it. You're capable. The weight you carried doesn't define you. Your response does not. Let this be the moment you choose yourself without apology. Stop giving pieces of yourself away to maintain comfort. Stop putting others above your own needs in fear of conflict. This is the moment you choose yourself without apology. It is decisive. It is firm. It marks a turning point. Nothing is left to doubt. Everything will change because you finally decided to change is not coming. Change is here because you acted, because you decided to stop tolerating what diminishes you. Everything shifts. Your thoughts, your actions, your path. It is not uncertain. It is yours. You chose it. You own it. And that decision is all you need to step into the life you were always meant to live.